Hello everybody, welcome back to Papa Saw Shop. This is part 2 of the 500i cylinder head removal and replacement. So if you're watching this one, do yourself a favor and watch the first part first, because you're going to be really lost when you get to this part if you didn't watch the first part. So looks a little different than when you saw me last. So turns out, in order to get the cylinder head off, oh, this thing's something else. I got nothing to brag about on this thing. All right, so I'll tell you why everything else is pulled off here in a second. But so the mounting screws in the cylinder head, you can get to those pretty easy up here. All right. The problem is this little black plastic guy right here. That holds all the wiring and all that kind of stuff for all the stuff down below, and it holds it for the charging up here. So this black plastic, don't even try to get it off. I've already been there. I'll give you a heads up. It's attached down here. There's a screw that you pull out up top up here, and it's, oh well, shoot, we got it. We'll just pull that out. No, you won't. It's attached way down underneath down there. You can't get to it unless you pull the whole damn tank off. So you pull the tank out. By the way, there's our aluminum head screws, cylinder head screws. All right. Anyway, we'll put those up there because they're not going back into this saw. We're going to put a grade 8 screw in there. We don't do that kind of stuff around here. All right, so you want to disconnect the handle, and I'll take this guy off first, and that's pretty self-explanatory. I won't get into that. I think there's 4 screws on there, and then take the AV mount off the top. Oh, the one thing about that I will get into though, when you take this off, this thing's kind of cool on this little guard. So when you take this off of the engine right here, take this screw out right here, and then you don't have to take this all the way off. It'll just swivel out of the line. So that's kind of cool. Anyhow, so once you get that off, then you got to take the AV mount loose off of this side, off of that weak spot that I was telling you about in the last video, which is right there. So you take that loose. And then you unplug all the computer cords, and all you really got to remember to plug these back in is just remember the blue goes to blue. And there's only 3, and you can leave the white one plugged in. The white one goes to the switch, and then the other ones go to the charging, and it goes to the little relay down there for the fuel injection. And then just unplug your hoses. Now listen to me now. When you're taking this loose, okay, when you got this up here, the one thing I did notice, get the rubber boot, get that pushed out of your way, get it pushed in, turn the handle this way, okay? I don't know if you can see my vantage point, but turn the handle, leave your hoses hooked up, and then turn the handle this way to unhook the hoses. The reason is because when you're looking in from the top, you see that right there, okay? And so it looks like they just plug straight in. They don't. It kind of does this little L bracket thing right here. I don't know if you can see that. See, it does this little L bracket thing here. And the way these set in here with this little rubber hook on the end of it, it makes it look like from the top, it's kind of an optical illusion. It makes it look like it goes like the hose curves. It doesn't. So you just want to turn this loose and then push these upwards. Don't push them out. You'll snap that L bracket off. That little L tube right there. It's all plastic. So that little trick getting that off. This will be handy anyway, because I like to get all this cleaned up anyhow. Okay, the flywheel. You got to get the flywheel off because you got to be able to get back into all this damn stuff. All right, you got to be able to see in here. This flywheel, I'm not going to say any cuss words on here, but well, I got a couple of cuss words for this little thing. So these guys are kind of hooked up like the old school ones. You got a, well, more or less when they put them inside the flywheel and not on the outside. But so you got this ring inside here, all right. And when I was doing bigger engines, seems like a lifetime ago, we always had this thing that attached somewhere in the engine. You guys that do diesel engines, you'll know what that is, and the name escapes me right now because I'm old and I don't remember shit. But anyway, that ring sits in behind the flywheel. The flywheel's got an embedded key inside of it, but it is going to be stuck to it. Now, I didn't really care about this cylinder head because I'm replacing it anyway, so I put a little wedge right in here between the top and there, and I just kind of tugged it out. But it was something else to get off here, and I was not aware, and I guess I should have been, but I was not aware that we had that ring down there, and I wasn't aware that it had this little plastic thing here. I didn't tear anything up, but I could see how a person could easily tear things up if you weren't careful. So it does have, see right in the center, it's got that little screwy thing in there. So what I'm going to do is, while this thing is still here, I'm going to fabricate just a little piece of steel with a couple of holes in it that I put screws in it, and then a hole down the center, and I pull it out that way, so I can winch it out and not do that again. So I would not recommend doing what I did and stick something down in there, because it looks to me like I got pretty lucky and didn't screw nothing up, but I could see where a person could do that. But you know, it's a 500i. We're all learning here. So now I will say this much: I've done a few times when I've just, patience got the best of me and I didn't have the right tools, and I have done that before. It's never really a good idea to put a chisel behind the flywheel. Let's just say that right from the start. That's never a good idea, okay? But especially not with a 500i, all right? All right, now, I've had you here for 8 minutes, so we're just going to go ahead and, you and I are going to go ahead and just take this doggone cylinder head off here. Now, I would love to tell you I know exactly what I'm doing here, but I'd be lying to you. So I notice it's got some screws back there in the back. So I'm going to take those screws off. I'm going to take those right off the back of the cylinder head, because I kind of think, by looking at the new cylinder head, I kind of think it's set up like a 201 a little bit, where it's just got that, it's got that 4-post deal. I think if we just take those screws out, I think that whole thing will just come right off there. Now, it looks like I probably got one more screw somewhere, but I can't find it. All right, so you can't really see what I'm doing here, but so I got 3 screws out, and I know there's a 4th, but there's some really teeny tiny wires in there, so I don't really want to mess with those teeny tiny wires, and this doggone plastic piece is still in my way. I get the impression that we're going to fight with that plastic piece until the very end. So, and I made the mistake. There's another cylinder bolt falling out of there. Speaking of cylinder head bolts, I made the mistake of taking that cylinder head loose. Here's a piece of advice for you. I think what you ought to do is probably not take that cylinder head loose until you get this doggone plastic piece out of here. Then, because the cylinder head right now is kind of moving with everything, and so it's kind of making it awkward to get this out. Now I figured out what's going on. I'll show you here in a second here. I'm not trying to be secretive here. Okay. This black, there it is. This black plastic piece right here that goes over the top of the cylinder. My God, friends and neighbors, that thing is everything. So that's where so it would be set up like this. When you're looking at the cylinder, when you're looking at the top of the saw, there's your spark plug hole right there. So that's where that thing sits right there. So there's a screw that you can get to at the top up here to get that loose. There's one, this is just dumber than all get out. There's one down here on the very bottom. So you got to take the handle, the gas tank, the whole damn works off so you can get to that screw right there, because you're not going to reach it with everything on there. So you got to get that off of there. Yay. All right, let's put this cylinder head over here. Okay, so now since you got that plastic out of the way, and it is made just like a 201 intake, I'm gonna put this right up here, and then you can kind of get a bird's eye view of what I'm doing here. We're gonna take that last screw out, right there like that. And so it looks like that last screw is a ground screw. It's grounding some damn thing in there. All right, then you got, man, I tell you. So then you've got the little wires that go to the fuel injection module. All right, and those are right in the way of the last screw. See, can you see it right there? It goes right there, right over the top of it. It looks like they've done it on purpose. Because the hole down is right there. They did not make this thing easy to fix. Probably the intention is, well, it broke. Why don't you just get a new saw while you're here? I think I've heard that once or twice from a steel dealer. All right, so you gotta, boy, with a little bit of finesse, you gotta get those wires out of the way. So you get in there with your screwdriver. You gotta be real careful. Oh, I got somebody sending me a text. All right, so you got to be real careful, a little bit of finesse, and get past that. Now, the other thing is, that piece, that little coupler that goes up to the engine, you're not going to have enough room to pull the cylinder head off with that coupler connected to the cylinder head. Okay? So what you're going to have to do, what I did is, there's some little pins in here. Okay, so you got to get a screwdriver right in the edge of there, and then just gently pry that away from there, and then you can get that out of there. Because you don't take those wires off of that fuel injection module. You do not want to get into there. That's some really delicate parts in there. So don't get into that. So you got that thing off of there now. Go ahead and pull your cylinder head off. There you go. Woo, doggy. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of gunk in there. Oh man, there's the piston. Oops, you could almost see it. There you go. It's pretty chewed up there like they do. Now this side here, man, that sure looks like a carbon deposit. And this side is pelted, where there's scrape marks across here, and you can see where those fines just got in there and just destroyed everything. And there's even fines. Look at that. I'm gonna lift this thing up. Look at this. They're underneath. They piled up down here. This is underneath of this thing. Here, there's a cylinder head. Look at this. That's underneath. They're piled up in all the vent holes, and this all came from this right here, from this flaw. So I mean, I'm gonna get this thing all cleaned up and put back together. But so I mean, I could walk you through putting it back on. But if you've gotten this far taking this off, you'll be okay putting it back on. Now let me tell you this much. Now I'll be quite frank with you. This is the first time that I've ever taken a cylinder head off a 500i. And I'm not afraid to do it. But I will tell you this. I've got more than 30 years on this thing. You know, not on this, but I got more than 30 years experience of playing with these engines like this. So, I mean, I'm not afraid of a new adventure. But I'll say this much, this is not an easy job. This requires special tools. This requires some know-how. I mean, this is not one of those things you want to buy a cylinder head in your garage and just, you know, go out and just, I'll give it a shot and see what happens. Bad things are going to happen. This is not for the faint of heart. So this is not your 660 throw a cylinder head on it kind of thing. This is way more intense than that. So if you don't have a good share of knowledge and know-how about this stuff, don't try this. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how much this was. You can go over to Saw again and find out. Yeah, these aren't cheap, and this guy here is definitely not cheap. So, and I could see where you could make one mistake on this thing and it could cost you an easy $1,000. And this is already pretty close to $1,000 repair already, and not just because I'm giving him a good deal, you know. So anyway, yeah, don't try this at home, kids. But if you've never done one of these, and you feel like you're competent enough that you can do it, I hope this helps. And I'm gonna get this thing all cleaned up and get her all put back together, and maybe we'll make a part 3 when we get her all running, just to show you it actually worked out okay. So, all right, till next time, y'all take it easy out there, be careful, and happy motoring.